Alright, we began with needless to say, if there are no animal products in the diet, there is not a single drop of animal fat. We kept the use of vegetable oils as minimal as possible. 2. And in order to isolate the effects of the diet, we asked the participants not to alter their normal activity patterns. No one was to add exercise to the regimen. Now, exercise is an important part of any healthy lifestyle, and ordinarily we would strongly encourage it, but this was a test of the diet alone. And for scientific reasons, exercise was not to be part of it. At the end of the study period, everyone weighed in. In just 12 weeks, the average participant had lost 16 pounds. Their fasting blood sugar had dropped 28%. Two-thirds of the participants on diabetes medications were able to reduce or discontinue them in that short period of time. All this occurred without any limits on calories, portions, or carbohydrates, and without exercise. These effects were significantly greater than those seen in a control group carefully following the diet guidelines of the American Diabetes Association. That was impressive, but why did it happen? How does a diet that gives a green light to pasta, rice, and all the other foods that people with diabetes thought they had to live without, and one that completely disregards calories and avoids exercise, cause blood sugar to plummet and weight to easily drop away? To answer that question, we designed another study. This one included a group of women who were moderately or severely overweight but did not have diabetes. Once again, we zeroed in on animal fat and vegetable oils. Our participants set animal products aside and kept oils to a bare minimum, and they were free to implement the diet guidelines in their own way, whether they ate at home or ate out. So it was a good test of how the diet would work in real life. For one person, eating out might have meant mushroom stroganoff with steamed vegetables. For another, it might have been vegetable sushi with miso soup and salad. As long as they avoided animal products and kept oils to a minimum, they were free to shape their meals to their liking. For comparison, we included a control group whose members followed what you might think of as a typical cholesterol-lowering diet. It cut back on red meat while emphasizing poultry and fish, along with plenty of vegetables, fruits, and whole grains. The results were quick and impressive. The vegetarian group participants lost about a pound per week after 14 weeks. They had lost an average of 13 pounds compared to 8 pounds for the control group. By now, it was no surprise that this diet causes weight loss, but we went a step further. We sent our participants to the laboratory for a glucose tolerance test, which allowed us to measure how their bodies responded to sugar and how well their body's insulin was working. Each participant swallowed a dose of sugary syrup, and we took blood samples every half hour to measure rises in blood sugar and insulin. From these laboratory data, we were able to calculate each woman's insulin sensitivity and track how it changed as the study progressed. The results were remarkable. The tests showed that our participants were physically changing based on their laboratory measurements. It was clear that their body's cells were becoming more and more sensitive to insulin. By the 14-week point, their insulin sensitivity had improved by 24%. In other words, something about the diet reactivated their natural insulin's ability to open cell doors to glucose. What that means, of course, is that the diet was addressing the fundamental problem we see in type 2 diabetes. It was helping glucose get to where it belonged. Based on these and other studies, the National Institutes of Health, the research branch of the US government, decided to fund a new study. Working with me on the project were researchers from George Washington University School of Medicine and the University of Toronto, and dietitians and physicians working with the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, a nonprofit organization I founded in 1985. The study included 99 people with type 2 diabetes. For 22 weeks, 49 of them followed a diet that was similar to those we had tested earlier. The diet was vegan, meaning that it included no animal products at all and was low in fat. Also, while we placed no limits on the amount of carbohydrates our participants could have, we encouraged everyone to be selective about the kinds of carbohydrates they ate. Instead of white bread, we encouraged them to choose rye or pumpernickel. Instead of baking potatoes, we favored sweet potatoes and yams. The remaining 50 participants followed a diet based on the ADA guidelines. Once again, we restricted exercise. Over the ensuing weeks, many participants found their blood sugar falling to the extent that they had to cut back on their diabetes medications. That was a happy outcome, but it was not our goal. In fact, we were trying to keep medications unchanged as much as we could so we could isolate the effect of the diet on their blood sugar. The combination of the diet and the blood sugar lowering drugs was so powerful, however, that many participants had to reduce their doses or discontinue medications altogether to keep their blood sugar from dropping too low. To really gauge what the diet could do, we looked at those participants whose medications had stayed constant and how the diet affected A1C, the principal gauge of blood glucose control. The ADA diet had reduced A1C by 0.4 percentage point, a good change. But the vegan diet was 3 times more effective. It had reduced A1C by 1.2 percentage points. The average person's value fell from 8 to 6.8% during the 22-week study. That is a stronger effect than is seen with a typical diabetes medication. The common diabetes drug, metformin, glucophage, for example, reduced A1C by about zero point 0.6 percentage point in a large research trial. The vegan diet also proved highly effective in reducing body weight and cholesterol. To put all this in perspective, the landmark UK prospective diabetes study showed that a 1 point drop in A1C for people with type 2 diabetes lowers the risk of eye or kidney complications by about 37%. This is the effect of just the A1C drop without considering the ability of the diet to also reduce cholesterol and blood pressure. In the next chapter, I will show you how you can test this diet to see what it can do for you. But let's look a bit closer at the science behind this approach.